Let's start from Switzerland, where the annual World Economic Forum Summit is set to begin today in Davos. The four-day annual gathering will be held under the shadow of the Fourth Industrial Revolution.
Over 3,000 people from 117 countries will gather in the ski town of the Swiss Alps. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan, US President Donald Trump and German Chancellor Angela Merkel are among 53 heads of state attending the forum. A meeting between President Trump and Prime Minister Imran Khan is scheduled on the sidelines of the summit. Prime Minister Khan has left for the summit. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi and other officials are accompanying the Prime Minister. The summit will host over 150 sessions that will be open to public attendance. Since 1971, Davos summits have been a mirror of major world events of their time, from the fall of Berlin Wall to the rise of economic globalization.
Well, in Islamabad, the U.S. diplomat for South Asian affairs, Alice Wells, says the issue of illegal Pakistani immigrants in America has been resolved to a great extent. Meeting with Interior Minister Ejaz Ahmad Shah, Wells said Washington appreciates Islamabad's cooperation on the matter. The two sides also discussed Pakistan's progress on matters raised by the Financial Action Task Force. Wells is likely to hold meetings with the country's top leadership on several issues, including the Afghan peace process and Indian atrocities in occupied Kashmir. Wells arrived in Islamabad on Sunday for a four-day visit to Pakistan centered around talks on bilateral issues. Her visit comes after Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi's trip to Washington. Well, the Taliban say peace talks with the U.S. in Qatar's capital Doha will continue today. Both sides are engaged in a fresh round of talks to end the 19-year war and to allow U.S. forces to leave Afghanistan. The group's spokesperson, Sohail Shaheen, said U.S. Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad and General Scott Miller are representing Washington. Shaheen said Taliban leaders Mullah Baradar, Abbas Sanakzai, and Maulavi Amir Khan are negotiating with U.S. representatives. He said both sides are expected to hold a joint meeting in Doha today to discuss further steps regarding the peace deal. Enraged by bribery allegations, women protesters in the Indian capital Delhi have sent a defamation notice to the ruling party. Bharatiya Janata Party's IT cell earlier alleged anti-citizenship law demonstrators are taking 500 rupees per day to attend the Shaheen Bagh sit-in. In the notice, protesters said the head of the BJP IT cell, Amit Malviya, has a vested interest in defaming demonstrations. They said through these allegations, Malviya has not only misled the public, but also brought disrepute upon the demonstrators. Meanwhile, Indian police have arrested 16 women for protesting against the controversial Citizenship Act. The Indian government has been facing countrywide protests against the new law for over a month, which has killed 27 people. Elsewhere, the UK government's Brexit bill has been defeated in the House of Lords. The upper chamber of Parliament voted in favour of a move to give EU nationals an automatic right to live in the UK after Brexit. Earlier this month, the Brexit bill was presented in the upper house after being passed by the House of Commons without amendments. Prime Minister Boris Johnson enjoys a commanding majority in the lower house after his recent election victory. However, Conservatives do not have a majority in the upper house. Any changes to the bill made by the Lords have to go back to the Commons to be approved and could still be overturned. European foreign ministers have discussed plans to restore an arms embargo against Libya's warring factions. The EU meeting in Brussels came a day after Germany hosted a summit to push for a ceasefire in that civil war. There's also been talk of a European military mission to monitor any truce before the meeting. The EU Foreign Policy Chief, Josep Borrell, said there had been no concrete decision. He added that ministers are discussing how the EU can engage more forcefully. Three rockets have hit Baghdad's Green Zone, home to government buildings and foreign missions. No injuries or casualties have been reported so far. Police say the rockets, two of which landed near the U.S. embassy, were launched from the Zafaraniya district outside Baghdad. A U.S. military spokesman in the city said they heard the blasts at the military and embassy compound areas. The U.S. blames Iranian-backed paramilitary groups for a spate of similar attacks on the Green Zone in recent months. Tehran, though, has not claimed responsibility. South Korea says it will send troops to the Strait of Hormuz with its anti-piracy unit now covering a larger area to help protect the waterway. Washington had asked Seoul and other allies to join a naval coalition to secure the strait amid tensions with Tehran. Korean Defense Ministry statement said the force will not join the U.S.-led coalition, but will conduct its operations independently. It said the government has decided to temporarily expand the Cheonghae unit's sphere of activity. The ministry said the step has been taken to guarantee the safety of its people and freedom of navigation for shipping. The United States has promised more action to support Venezuela's opposition leader, Juan Guaido. During a regional anti-terrorism summit in Bogota, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said Venezuela has become a failed state under President Nicolas Maduro. Pompeo also praised Colombia's President Ivan Duque for supporting Venezuelans who reject authoritarianism and demand freedom. Guaido defied a travel ban to travel to Colombia and plans to visit Brussels and then Davos to attend the World Economic Forum. Meanwhile, President Maduro has accused Washington of waging psychological warfare on Venezuela.
Mike Pompeo declares that he's ready now, so you can see what Mike Pompeo's mind is. He's a phony who deceives himself, cheats, who lives from psychological warfare, who lives from falsehood, from lies.
Well, Venezuela's military continues to stand by the ruling Socialist Party despite crushing U.S. sanctions and intensifying economic and humanitarian crises. On to Brazil now, where 26 inmates have escaped from a prison in the northwestern state of Acre, with all but one remaining at large. The jailbreak is just a day after 75 inmates escaped from a prison in Paraguay near the Brazilian border. Paraguayan authorities said those prisoners included members of a Brazilian organized crime group, the First Capital Command. Brazilian authorities say it was not yet clear if members of the First Capital Command were among those who fled the jail in Acre. The country's prison population stands at 750,000 people, the third highest in the world. The Honduran government has formally declared the Lebanese group Hezbollah a terrorist organization. The Deputy Security Minister, Luis Suazo, said the country will include the group on its registry of persons and institutions linked to terrorism and its financing. Hezbollah has also been labeled a terrorist organization by the U.S. government. Last week, Guatemala's new president, Alejandro Giammattei, also said he would list Hezbollah as a terrorist group. Both moves are seen to be aligning Guatemala's foreign policy more closely with the United States and President Donald Trump. 9 people have been killed by a suicide bomber in the western Chad village of Kaiga Kinjiari. The military says 2 others were wounded when a female blew herself up. Officials say the Boko Haram militant group is behind the deadly attack. Chad is one of the countries struggling with Boko Haram attacks that have spilled over from Nigeria's decade-long violence. Many of the group's fighters are believed to have sought refuge in the Lake Chad regions, launching attacks into Nigeria, Chad, Cameroon, and Niger. Well, in Chad itself, the French defense minister has met with his Chadian counterpart in the capital city, N'Djamena, to discuss a new Sahel military coalition. The French defense minister, Florence Parly, is on a 2-day visit to the Sahel region. Chad's defense minister, Mohamed Abali Salah, said they spoke of the technicalities for Chadian troops to operate outside their border. After the meeting, Parly said Chad's President Idriss Déby is committed to sending a battalion to the 3-border region.
Indeed, this international coalition is a turning point because it will focus its efforts on the most critical area at the moment in the fight against terrorism, which is the three-border region, with the new joint command that will bring together Operation Barkhane's command, G5 Sahel's command, and the leadership of the Sahelian armies.
In news coming out of Tunisia, President Kais Saied has named Elias Fakhfakh as the country's new prime minister. He now has a month to form a coalition and win a confidence vote in parliament by a simple majority. There will be another election with urgent economic decisions hanging over the country if he fails. Earlier this month, Parliament rejected ex-Prime Minister Habib Jamli's proposed government in a confidence vote. Jamli was nominated by the Ennahda party, which won last October's polls, but not a parliamentary majority. Tunisia has been in a state of turmoil since dictator Zain al-Abidine Ben Ali's regime was overthrown in 2011. And coming up next in this news bulletin, a water generator that amplifies power from motorcycle batteries. And we'll tell you how the Olympics may sanction competitive breakdancing. Let's begin this segment of the bulletin in the United States, where thousands of pro-gun activists from across the country have rallied outside the Virginia Capitol building. They protested against new restrictions on buying firearms and ammunition proposed by the state. Pro-gun activists said laws proposed by Virginia's state Congress infringe on their right to bear arms. Tensions rose last week after the FBI arrested 3 members of a white supremacist group authorities said planned a race war at the pro-gun rally. U.S. President Donald Trump has stirred tensions on Friday when he accused Virginia lawmakers of attacking the Constitution. In Nigeria, an engineer has created a water-powered generator, hoping his invention will promote the use of clean energy. This could be a game changer for the country, where about 80 million people are not connected to the national power grid.
Umeka Ugweze got the idea to build a gasoline-free generator after losing a friend in an accident. He began building the model in 2001 and has been improving it ever since.
I actually lost a friend to a generator, which actually brought about this, because I wanted to do something that kind of eliminate the use of gasoline generators in the society. So I'm actually an advocate of clean energy and waste management.
His latest device is powered by high-voltage motorcycle batteries with no emissions. Friends, family, and even strangers have helped him fund his experiments. He's also invented other machines to help solve environmental problems.
This is the C12A model of the Mbonwe series machine. What this one actually does is that it transforms trashes, your plastic, nylon, waterproof, and then the rest into petroleum products like petrol, kerosene, diesel, and some other heavy oil.
Ugweze's neighbour has been using his water-powered generator for a year. She uses it for lighting, running a fan, and watching television.
He's very, very excellent. I'm even begging him to, sell for me, but he said that it's not possible now. I'm even waiting for any time that he has produced it on going to the market. That is must. I must even purchase like 5 for myself and my family.
Should the generator be successful, it could be a boost for Nigeria. The country has suffered decades of chronic blackouts, and 80 million of its citizens have no access to power.
In In business news, stock markets across Asia have slumped after the IMF's report further downgraded the global economic outlook. The International Monetary Fund's recent report has predicted that the growth the world over will remain sluggish. Hong Kong's Hang Seng has plummeted over 2.5% after the ratings agency Moody's slashed its rating for the city. Index heavyweight insurer AIA plunged over 3%. The Shanghai Composite is trading over 1% lower as investors resort to panic sell-offs. Seoul's Kospi and Nikkei 225 have lost nearly 1% each. Meanwhile, international oil prices have lost nearly 1% after supply risks fade. Time now to find out what the weather is like around the world. And with that, you're all caught up. Thank you for watching this bulletin here on Indus News.